Ladies and gentlemen, here we are back again on Esoteric America. Chad unfortunately could not make it for this episode, but with me as always, Tara. Tara, how are you this evening?
Feeling wonderful. Thank you.
Wonderful. You're lovely as ever. And Roman, of course, co-host from the Rising from the Ashes podcast, recently left the continent of America. And he's now on the Big Island.
Yeah.
This is interesting. You're a foreign correspondent now. What do you think of that?
I love that. It's always been a dream of mine to be a field
Order?
field hoarder. And I hoard pieces of grass from random eclectic fields across the sweet toroidal globe, and I put them in a jar and water the grass of life from the inner druidic waters. Yeah, no, it's great out here. I love it. I'm so happy because the last time I was out here, I was living down really close to the water. And the thing is like when you're at sea level, it's very hot. So I've always wanted to live more up Mauka, as they say. Mauka, that's Mauka, Mauka. And it's more cold up here. We actually get like chilly, and that's really necessary. I'm very hot-blooded. So I gotta have a fan on my toesies while I sleep. And so yeah, man, it's all great. The thing that is being fun in the podcast realm is finding how the timing is working, because right now we're at a 5-hour time difference. So that's been an adjustment, but here we are. We will prevail.
Yeah, it's not bad. We might have to do less episodes per month, folks, on YouTube, but I promise whether or not we can get everybody involved, I'm going to try to do a weekly episode with Tara and I of Esoteric America. And then, of course, yourself and Chad will join us hopefully twice a month and maybe more if you can afford to do it. But you're settling into a new place. So we have patience and we wish you luck on your new expedition through Hawaii, which, of course, is an American state, but I like to think of Hawaii as a sovereign island nation of its own. I mean, at least that's how it should be. Before colonization, it was like that.
As a white man living here, I will say that I am in every ounce of my sweat and blood trying to enact that same thing as well. Like it because of the gentrification that's happened massively over the past decade here, and more locals are leaving and moving to the States. It's important to try and respect the culture as much as possible, and even more than respect it, right? Like understand it and ask about it and listen, right? And not just talk about it like I know what I'm talking about, but maybe point in the direction of a local brethren or sister, wahine or kane, that might be able to answer questions better. And so one thing that I love about this culture, man, is that they are so wonderfully prideful and so wonderfully beautiful and connected to family, and it's really, really nice. And you won't always get aloha from every from everybody all the time, but when you experience what they can call to be aloha, like a true loving vibration, it is unmatchable. And a lot of that comes and literally reverberates from the magmatic pressure of the volcano as well. It kind of like, just like, when people get acting up during like a full moon or something, right? You'll have like extra energy flowing. Well, the magma corresponds to the energies of the inner part of Earth and how Earth is affected on the inside. And so that energy gets pushed out and exposed through magma, and that in turn has literally a magnetic property on us. And anyways, man, it is great. It's glad to be back. I hope that you guys can make it out sooner rather than later. Tickets are surprisingly affordable right now. I know like economies and shit, but like plane tickets are like affordable. So the travel industry is like not inflating like the groceries are. But when you get here, make sure that we're picking fruit off the trees, because food is expensive out here. I'll tell you that right now. Over the past 2 years, it has skyrocketed.
Yeah, I imagine that could be an issue if you live on an island. But yeah, I don't know. You won't see me over there in Hawaii anytime soon. I'm not really much of a fly guy, so I think I'll stay to boat and car travel for now. But anyway,
Why are you not a fly guy? Just tell me.
let's not get into all this. The audience doesn't want to hear about my eccentric nature. But who's this? Did you send an invite to somebody?
Let us know in the comments what you guys think about Mark's eccentric life, and if you
Hold
want to know
on.
about the story.
Did you send an invite to somebody to this? Did I
No,
send an invite?
you did. Yes, you
Oh, I
emailed our
did. Oh,
guest that
okay,
we're
all right.
speaking with.
Yeah, it's just the guest has a different name than I guess the account that they're using for Zoom. So I got massively confused there. But yeah, they were here 10 minutes early. So let's get to the point, and maybe I'll message Jason, our guest today, and let him know that we'll let him in 10 minutes. But anyways, yeah, we're going to talk more about New Haven, Connecticut. This will most likely be our last episode for this area, unless we have some more research that comes up that we want to add. This will be the last one. So after this, we're going to be deciding on where our next location is, and based on the listenership and the fact that Roman has yet to present uh on his home state or a place where he's lived, we're either going to be talking about Washington, California, or Hawaii next month, depending on what Roman decides he'd like to talk about. I have a feeling that California can be a likely candidate, but I don't know. Now that you're in Hawaii, you might be swayed to do us a few episodes on Hawaii. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I'm super curious what the audience actually might have to say on that, because Washington, where I'm from, where I'm actually born, I was born in Port Angeles, Washington, and I have a lot to say about that state in general, having lived in Bellingham and grown up in Southwest Washington. So, I mean, we could do any of it. And it's all really interesting. Where we were at in California was fucking gold rush country, weed capital of of the world, Trinity County. Or we can definitely do something out here as well. So let's see what everybody wants, and then yeah, we'll start diving into it. I'm ready to go, man. I love this show. It's amazing. Don't ever want to see it at the wayside. I want to see it at the front side. I want to see it in the morning with my cup of coffee as I'm enjoying a sweet, subtle breeze in the trees, and then down to my knees as I pray to the gods above, the podcast gods, allowing us such gracious goodness to anyways, I'm excited,
Well,
man. What are we chatting about today? What do you got some juice for us on New Haven today, sir?
Don't let me hold on. Don't try to move away from what you just said and did there. I'm just gonna say thank goodness that's a part of your esoteric America, because it's hidden to the rest of us. We don't need we don't need to look in Roman's private life, at least based on that poem you just gave us. But anyways, we're gonna be talking about Connecticut, where Tara and I call home, and yeah, we got a bunch of info, we got a bunch of research, and while we were talking about some of that research, this gentleman, Jason, reached out and said he lives nearby and wants to participate. So we're gonna have Jason in here in a second to bring up more about this P.T. Barnum character that kind of fits into the whole World's Fair mysteries. He, has his sort of fingerprint on some cryptids that ended up being hoaxes. Who knows? Maybe he, created some legends himself that are still alive to this day. I wonder. But anyways, yeah, I'm excited to talk to Jason, and then afterwards we're going to uh talk a little bit more about New Haven, because I've been alluding to that a bunch, and I think people want to see all of that. So anyways, let's get into it. What do you think, Roman? You want to let Jason in here? Tara, what do you think?
Yeah, let him in, man. Yeah, Tara, what do you think?
Yeah.
Nice.
Open the doors.
Open it up. Let
Alright.
the man in. Let him free. Yeah, one of the things that I hope we get to talk about tonight, like you brought up the cryptids, because in Seaside, Oregon, where it's close to, it's right on the border of Oregon and Washington, they have this thing called Jake the Alligator Man. It's like half alligator and half man, and it's like this really interesting time period in history where that we were like literally creating fake animals and like telling people that they were real so we could sell entertainment to them. Like, look what we found. Uh-oh, we found a skeleton of an alligator and a man, and it's real. You're like, okay, all right, I'm listening.
Yeah, and then it just ends up being a puppet side to the back end of a crocodile or an alligator. Yeah.
Cruelty. That's animal cruelty.
Let's let Jason in.
Let's let him in.
We're back, and with us is Jason for the first time here on Esoteric America, joining us to talk about a place that he also calls home, this great state of Connecticut. We're going to be talking about a strange figure that Roman gave us a sort of 101 intro on in a previous episode. This character named P.T. Barnum. So, what do you think? Tara, Roman, any thoughts on P.T. Barnum before we get into this presentation?
No, man, I'm excited to see what he has coming on for us, dude. Thank you for putting this together. We much appreciate it. This is our original intent for Esoteric America, was to get on people from across the country to get inspired to look into things and from their town. So thank you, brother. I'm really stoked to see what you got.
Yeah, Jason, thank you so much, man. I should say Jason, like I said, is from Connecticut, reached out, said he had some information he wanted to share, and was kind enough to put it together in a Canva presentation. But before we get to that, Jason, tell us a little bit about yourself, man. You right now you're living in New York City. What do you do for work, and like what got you interested in all these weird topics?
Cool. Yeah. So right now I'm actually doing I'm doing Uber Eats delivery out here. Got a bike, so keep busy doing that. Keep in shape, you know. But so yeah, I mean, I've been listening to your podcast for a few months, like I was just saying, and you know, it just kind of inspired me, I guess, to look into, you know, things around me, things that I know, names that I know, places that I know, stuff like that. So yeah, just really not too much of an introduction, but
No,
you know,
that's
I'm glad to be on. Big fan of the show, so should be
yeah.
fun.
I imagine with a job like that, you get plenty of time to tune into podcasts.
For
That's
sure.
right on. Well, let's get into it. Share your screen. Let's talk
Cool.
about P.T. Barnum. Because for folks who don't know, he was born in Bethel, Connecticut,
Yeah.
became famous across the nation and even worldwide. You know, Barnum and Bailey Circus, it has his name included in it. And yeah, anyone who's seen a lion tamer, or you know, elephants doing tricks and seals doing tricks, I mean, this is a guy, he created a lot of that stuff. So
So Mark, I'm on a share screen here. It's still grayed out. I don't know.
Let us not forget about the freak shows.
Yeah,
He's also
there's a lot
known
with
for
him.
that.
I didn't touch too much on you know, the more, I guess, the more known things about him, like the Barnum, and because the thing is with the Barnum and Bailey circus, that kind of happened after he was, you know, after he had passed away. A lot of the success of that circus was more in the, you know, 1900s and, you know, closer to our time, whereas a lot of, I kind of touched a lot of more stuff that was going on in his life, you know, while he was walking the earth. But yeah, I'm not seeing a
should
way
be
to
able
do it.
to
I'm kind of a noob to this too, so it's
Right.
there. I see the
when you
see
click
some-
it, does anything come up? Is there any screen that popped up that
no, it's like grayed out. It's not allowing me
click it?
like click it. Yeah, maybe if I
Yeah, I have all the permissions allotted so that you're able to share your screen. So maybe
Yeah, so
you gotta.
saw that you gave me a co-host or what was it? But
You
let me
can
see.
send me the link in the chat to your
Yeah,
Canva and
let's see.
or share it, and then might be able to
We're not live either, so don't worry. You're not. You don't need to rush. We can
Gotcha.
edit this out too.
Cool. Let me ask, babe, do you know I'm trying to like share my screen, but it's grayed out here, you see. I don't know like I'm trying to share a screen on Zoom, you know, and it's not allowing me to click here.
Says it's recording.
Yeah, we're on. Well, we're on like the
we're on hiatus.
You're right. Sorry for this, guys. So do you want me to all
Cool.
right.
Right on.
All right, let me know.
We got the P.T. Barnum.
We got all right, there we go.
See it? It's full screen. It looks
All right.
beautiful.
We gotta go.
Is there any way you can minimize the little
This thing here? Gotcha.
All right, cool.
All right.
So let's get into it. Born in Bethel, CT.
Yes.
Let me ask you this before we go any further. You were tuning into the show. What made you look into P.T. Barnum in particular? Because I remember it was synchronistic. Roman brought him up without knowing that you had sent me that.
Yeah.
And I was surprised. I'm like, oh wow, this guy just told me he was looking into P.T. Barnum. So what first turned you into looking onto the P.T. Barnum?
Well, in my lifetime, I grew up in Danbury, Connecticut, which is one town over, or Danbury is a city and Bethel's a town, I believe. So they share a line. And where I actually grew up was 2 minutes from the Bethel downtown, where they have a street called P.T. Barnum Way or P.T. Barnum something or other. I forget the exact name of the street, but so I've known about P.T. Barnum just having grown up, you know, down the street from a place called P.T. Barnum Square before I even knew, you know, probably who he was at the time. And so just in my life, like that's kind of how I was introduced to him as P.T. Barnum. And then, you know, it's kind of when I think probably at some point, you know, I was watching your show and again, you inspired me to look into places around me. So I did some digging about this guy, P.T. Barnum, you know, and there was actually a movie that came out recently, which it was a musical, which I didn't know. Here, I have it here, The Greatest Showman, right? So
Wolverine was also
right. Yeah, right. And so me and my girlfriend watched this, and I didn't know it was a musical. I thought it was going to be some type of like historical, you know, setting type movie, but it was a musical, so it wasn't really something that I wanted to see. But we sat through it, and definitely not my cup of tea.
Well, you know, maybe I want to try it sometime. I was in drama club in middle school, and I wouldn't go and watch a play nowadays taste either, but yeah, you know, hey, who knows? I heard that the Shakespeare plays have a bunch of metaphysical and esoteric stuff in them. Hint, we might be talking about that on the show soon. But either way, interesting that they turn this into a musical. It's a sort of common trope for propaganda to put behind something, behind an idea to make it stick in people's heads, you know.
Right. And not only that, but they actually had P.T. Barnum, you know, singing in the show. And from all that I read, I don't think P.T. Barnum ever was a singer or performer in that sense of the word. I think he might have, you know, been a good stage presence, but I don't think he was dancing and singing like this movie was showing. But
yeah, the movie was definitely an embellishment of P.T. Barnum as a character, because even just having him as Hugh Jackman is like
right. And the cast, I mean, the cast is, you know, you got Zac Efron, you got Zendaya. I mean,
if you look at an image
a big budget.
You look at a photograph of P.T. Barnum, they ought to have like someone like Paul Giamatti or like Dan,
Right.
you
Yeah,
know,
I'll pull up a picture of
Barnum,
this is
not Hugh Jackman. Look at him.
this is P.T. Barnum, right? And this is who they have here playing P.T. Barnum. But you know, P.T. Barnum was a man known for hoaxes, so I'm sure he wouldn't have mind being played
Oh no,
as a.
yeah, he loved exaggerations, that's for sure. Yeah, he would have casted someone handsomer than Hugh Jackman. Yeah.
Right.
This is quite a man, lives up to, this sort of huge persona in a bunch of ways because he was an inventor too. Like a lot of the stuff he did was kind of next level for his time. So let's
He was a mayor as well he was the mayor of Bridgeport as well, and so we'll touch on that a bit. Actually, I don't think I got into that in this, but I was reading about that. So just yeah, so I mean, I think he was the mayor for like a year or something like that, but still. Okay, so here I have, if we look in the settling, the 8 families that settled Danbury, we have a Thomas Barnum and we have a Thomas Taylor. Okay, and so I did a little digging of their of their lineages, and it turns out he's connected to both of them, which I thought was interesting. And I actually I think I'm sorry, I forget your name, bro. Roman. Yeah, Roman.
Yes.
You touched on something a bit farther back than just the settlement of Danbury, but I think it was the first settlers of Connecticut, or
yeah, Roman
where he was related to.
He was related to some of the founding members of the Connecticut colony.
Right. Which was spot on with what I had, thought I had stumbled upon with this here. So I thought that was interesting. So he's, I mean, I think this is 1685, right? So he's born in 1810. So this is a good, 130 years before he's
sort of in this sort of upper crust,
right.
establishment network of families, the first to settle types.
Right. And I thought this was funny here. Let's see. They asked the town to be named Swampfield, the original inhabitants, because they had to pick a name for Danbury. But I guess instead, Governor Robert Treat chose to call it Danbury after a village in his native Essex County, England, which I couldn't really find any like source or anything for that. But I mean, I don't know where the name Danbury really came from, but then I've also heard of, some stuff you guys are talking about in relation to other city names in different places in America with the Dane, the tribe of Dan.
The tribe of Danbury.
Nice. I thought maybe there would be a connection there. I didn't really find anything, but
it's synchronistic. My mother actually worked on Robert Treat Farm, which is in our hometown, and Robert Treat owned the land. Obviously, she's not old enough to on his actual farm, but
right.
The land that was once his farm. And yeah, he was a governor, and that was common. They weren't creative, so they
right. I imagine that's kind of what I
yeah. And that's why you see it all over New England, England names for places like
right.
Sussex, Glastonbury. I mean, Hartford is named after Hertfordshire, so that's the capital.
Bury just quite literally means like place or like town. So yeah, I am curious actually. That'd be kind of a cool little bit of a deeper dive. Maybe we'll do off the air.
It could be connected to our buddy Dan Donunaki, who's obsessed with the tribe of Dan, right? Naturally so. Maybe it has something to do with the Danes. Like maybe Danbury in England was where the Danes and the tribe of Dan
Right. That's kind of what I was thinking about too. Trying to go farther back. It does get mucky the farther back you get, as I'm sure you guys know.
Especially in Swampfield.
Right.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Yeah, I would have loved to grow up in a place called Swampfield. That would have been great. But I guess Danbury.
Move to Florida.
I remember something like a folk tale we read in one of our Connecticut folktale books that P.T. Barnum or somebody in Bethel, I think it was P.T. Barnum, inherited all this land, or his grandfather was a trickster or something like told him, oh, we are giving you all this land, like 30 miles.
Oh, right. Yeah. I heard
Right.
of it.
He hikes through all these swamps to get
Yeah.
there and realizes that the land he inherited was a swamp. And he's what the F? I hope I'm not stepping on,
No. I didn't really get deep into that, but I'm kind of glad you put it that way because it does make me see it.
Well, and back then, a lot of this area in Connecticut was pretty swampy and not that
Right. I
farming.
mean, even to this day, the Danbury Fair Mall, which is where actually used to be the site of a big fair that I guess I don't know if it's a state fair or city fair, I'm not sure, but it was a big fair that I remember my mom actually said when she was younger, they would skip school sometimes to go to the fair and stuff like that.
Right.
But it's actually built on top of like a swamp and it floods every so often, like the mall where they built the fair on they built on top of the fairground.
Oh yeah, I go out there sometimes. I love
Yeah,
that
yeah.
trading company. I
Mhm.
get some pants from them. But
Must be a
over there
family of ogres.
at the mall there.
yeah, across the street
Okay.
from the mall, they have
Yeah,
a
yeah.
clothes company I like. But anyways, all right. So we got a little bit of 101 here on how he's connected to Danbury itself. That's interesting.
Right. And so yeah, that's why that story that you actually brought up actually that makes sense because if he was like inheriting the land of Danbury, which Bethel at the time was actually a part of Danbury, it wasn't its own settlement yet at the time, or its own town yet. At the time when P.T. Barnum was born, so he was actually born in Danbury, technically, if you know. So that's interesting. So yes, I just kind of got some of this stuff from online here. We'll just pick out some stuff out of it. He became personal friends with figures such as Abraham Lincoln, Queen Victoria of England, and Mark Twain. So I mean, already
Only
there,
slightly significant.
right? Already there. I mean, that's three of the most important people in our modern history in some senses, right? I mean, and he's buddy with them, right. So I thought, just picking out some stuff from there. We'll get into some more stuff later on. And then I guess historian Irving Wallace noted that as a showman, Barnum gave New York and then America and finally the world the gift of enjoyment. So he was really propped up as like this guy who's bringing entertainment, I guess, the idea of entertainment to, I guess people that didn't really have an idea of what, entertainment was, at least not the way that P.T. Barnum could entertain, for sure. So, because he was into some pretty weird stuff, I guess weirder, it would be much weirder nowadays, I guess you could say, but in their day it was kind of like, he was the what do you call it, the father of freak shows and this kind of idea of, because also in his day, as we'll get to in a bit, like a museum wasn't what we think of as a museum today, where it's it's fine art and it's like a high class establishment, at least from what I understood. I mean, his museums were essentially like half fine arts exhibits and things of that nature, and then like half freak show, and it was all in one building, and there was lots of crazy.
Yeah, like a curiosity shop.
Right. But it was called a museum at the time, right? And so our idea of a museum, but it makes sense, and it's in the word right there. It's a museum, right? It's for amusement. It's for whereas nowadays we kind of we have a different idea of what a museum is, at least in my opinion. So this actually mentions, I don't know if I have what the quote that you were talking about, but his grandfather would go farther, wait longer, work harder, and contrive deeper to carry out a practical joke than for anything else under heaven. And then that kind of touches on, what you brought up there.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's pretty
right.
dedicated.
It's an interesting like fact or whatever that Barnum recalled.
He was an apple that didn't fall far from the tree, right?
Right.
Tales and being a joker, that was in his nature, right? So back then, they didn't have comedians, right? Being a joker was like more of a personality trait than like a career. So he kind of made a career out of something that was
exactly
more of a personality trait.
And
Yeah. Huh.
Yeah, that's kind of the like the, I don't know how to put it, but you know, some people might say P.T. Barnum was a great guy, and some people might say he was a terrible guy because, you know, he would give these freaks, right? He would give these freaks a platform and a chance to get paid and make a buck off of their, you know, their whatever it is, their, you know, the thing that makes them different.
Yeah.
And so, but at the same time, right? Like there's guys like Tom Thumb, as you mentioned before, Mark, your buddy Tom Thumb. He became famous. You know, I mean, this guy became like one of the world's first, I mean, or at least America's first celebrities. You know, and it was. So I think it's interesting. You know, it depends which way you look at it. He could be either this really, you know, great guy helping out people, or he could be, you know, kind of this guy that's kind of taking advantage of these people's disabilities, or, you know, stuff like that, or even you know, taking advantage of animals and kind of keeping them under not so great conditions or places that they're not really supposed to be, such as inside of buildings in Manhattan. But we'll get to that in a bit. So yeah, he was an entrepreneur from an early age. This says he sold snacks, cherry rum, stuff, things at his local gatherings. By the age 12, he had enough money to purchase his own livestock. And he had his own general store, small lottery, and even his own newspaper called the Herald of Freedom, which actually I think, okay, yeah, actually, we didn't need to see that slide there, but I kind of split it up here. So yeah, this is like a little clipping from his newspaper. I found like one thing online of, you know, his paper, which it was like 3 or 4 pages long. It wasn't, I kind of skimmed through it. It wasn't anything that stood out to me, but I don't always maybe have the best eye for maybe like hidden things that sometimes that you guys have that you know, kind of
Oh, there's
that
no
I'm working on.
there's no need to discount yourself. No,
No,
it's, you know,
I'm new to this,
something
so
it's something you start to get better at over time. So that's
right.
to
He
say.
definitely loved writing. He was always,
Yeah.
you know, he wrote his own autobiography, and so
Oh,
it's
and he revised
seems
it many
to.
times.
I'm sure he did.
Yes. So yeah, so this is a little clipping, just a little lottery news here. WMS Taylor, probably someone related to him. I'm not sure, you know, but I would imagine that the Taylor family was, you know, they were big in Danbury. You know, they were the kind of the head honchos from the sound of it. We had several businesses over the years. The Herald of Freedom, right? And he actually, his editorials against the elders of local churches led to libel suits and a prosecution, which resulted in imprisonment for 2 months, which he actually served in Danbury, which is another, you know, something that interested me. But he became a champion of the liberal movement upon his release. He sold the store in 1834. So yeah, this is just a little, you know, old map of Danbury, picture of the police station. I thought that was cool because it's not a police station anymore, and it's actually just known as like the old jail in town. It's kind of like a historic building. It's not really used for anything. It's a pretty cool looking building with the mansard roof, and you know, maybe some more history there. But there's a few you could see even in Danbury. There's a few of the larger cathedral type buildings that you'll get in Danbury. Okay, so he first rose to prominence by engineering a famous hoax, first of many.
What?
Yes. So, right. So he launched his career in entertainment by purchasing Joyce Heth, a blind slave touted as being the 161-year-old former nurse of George Washington. After billing Heth as the most astonishing and interesting curiosity in the world, Barnum put her on display in New York and took her on a small tour of New England. Visitors lined up to gawk at her withered body and hear her tales of dear little George. And Barnum helped fuel popular interest by spreading a rumor that she was actually an automaton controlled by a ventriloquist. The truth about Heth didn't emerge until after her death in 1836.
Wow.
During a public autopsy staged by Barnum at the price of 50 cents for admission, it was revealed that she was most likely no older than 80. So, I mean, they were doing a public autopsy and for entertainment. I mean, this is I don't know. I don't know if I would that'd be
You
something
can
that I
that.
want to see, but yeah, I don't know if I'd be there. For
That's
50
kind of like
cents.
that weird body exhibit they have in New York City, right? I think that came from China, that where they have like all the different layers of the body, you know.
Oh, what is this? I've never heard of
Oh
this.
wow,
What's
yeah.
this?
Well,
Bodies
maybe
Museum.
yeah, maybe a different topic for
Yeah, sure,
today.
sure.
Yeah, that's something I learned about, that there's like this bodies museum. I think it's,
Interesting.
a gallery in a museum, and they take it,
It's a traveling exhibit.
there it is.
Oh, okay.
Tara, see,
Yeah.
this is why Tara's here. She's
She fills in all the blanks there.
much more memory, has a better memory than I, for sure. But wow, this woman is very interesting looking. I'm
Yeah.
curious, like, if she was like Native American or something, based on her skin color, or if the artist was just trying to like portray like weathered skin by coloring her that way. Like,
Mhm.
is
I
there anything
think
about her?
the story is
Oh,
if
she's
I
a
remember
slave. Well, then, yeah, maybe
right.
she's
I think the
African.
story is, it might even be in here. I think they say she was born in Africa though, like oh wait, here. Joyce Heth was born in the year 16. I don't think it says where. I do remember reading where, but it wasn't, I don't think they said she was Native American, but with, a lot of stuff that's coming out now, and kind of the new I don't want to say movement, but the kind of new awakening, I guess you could say. We know, and we know that natives could be anybody, right? It could be anybody at
Well,
this
yeah,
point.
there were Native Americans who were taken as slaves too. I just didn't
Right.
see the word slave. I just saw the word nurse.
Yeah, I don't know if they, I think, yeah, I don't know if they ever like say she was a slave.
Oh yeah, it says it up at the top.
Oh
I
yeah, I'm sorry. Right, right, right,
missed
right.
it.
Blind
Either
slave.
way,
Right. I'm
interesting.
sorry. Yeah, and then there's also tales of natives living a long time. So I don't think that it would be impossible for someone to be 161, although it does sound like it. I don't think that we can say it's impossible. And then also, I thought this was interesting. There was a rumor that she was actually an automaton controlled by a ventriloquist. I mean, I don't. That seems like a strange rumor to start, but I guess it's just the kind of guy he was. So here, Barnum didn't go into the circus business until relatively later in life, which a lot of people probably don't know, because we just know him as the Barnum and Bailey Circus, which again, he wasn't really even. I think he might have been alive for maybe like 5 to 10 years or so when they started to do the circus. But I mean, most of that, circus, Barnum and Bailey Circus took off around the time after he was gone. So yeah, he was known for his traveling three-ring circuses, but he didn't make his first forays under the big top until he was 60 years old, right? So he was almost at modern retirement age before he actually started these circuses. Before then, he was better known as the owner of the Manhattan-based American Museum, a sprawling collection of historical artifacts, aquariums, animal menageries, zoological curiosities, and freak shows. Some of the museum's most notable exhibits included Tom Thumb, General Tom Thumb, a child dwarf who Barnum famously brought to audience with Queen Victoria of Britain, and the Fiji mermaid, which was actually the upper half of a monkey sewn to the bottom of a fish. Barnum only launched his traveling circus after his museum and was twice destroyed by fire. He later teamed with his famed partner James Bailey in 1881. Right, so that's when they started the modern greatest show on earth, what we come to know. But yeah, so a lot there, right? I mean, we've got Tom Thumb, Child Dwarf. I mean, we've got the Fiji mermaid, which I have pictured here. And I found interesting that, I mean, I found these other clippings of Fiji mermaids. So I think that this was kind of like the lore of the time, right? And then, but this is kind of the artifact that we're left with today. So, I mean, I don't know if later in his life they kind of, maybe they actually did have mermaids, right? But they kind of used this as a way to like dispel that. But that's just me being speculative. And I don't really have any evidence for that, but we kind of have this as the idea of a Fiji mermaid, and then we read about Fiji mermaid with Barnum, but it's a thing, something looking kind of like this. And there's photos of it, but I didn't really want to include it because it's just kind of weird looking, and it's a corpse sewn together with, you know, a fish tail. It's not the best looking you know, thing to share, I would say, but but yeah. Oh, and also with the fires, this man has rings of fire all over him. Buildings are burning down like all over him. So we'll get into that. So we'll go here. Okay. So John Scudder originally established his American Museum on the second floor of the New York City Almhouse in 1810. So P.T. Barnum would buy this museum here that you'll see pictured on the right from John Scudder, which this was his original museum. So John Scudder moved his museum from this building into this building, which would then become P.T. Barnum's museum, famed museum that would burn down twice. Let's see, I think I have some interesting stuff here. They decided to sell in 1841. So yeah, Barnum had a year of mixed success with his first variety troupe called Barnum's Grand Scientific and Musical Theater, followed by the Panic of 1837 and 3 years of difficult circumstances. I did read what this was, but I do forget what the Panic of 1837 is. So if you know, you could chime in. But I think it was like there were fires sweeping through New York City at the time. I think that's what the Panic was.
Of 1837 was a financial crisis in the United States.
Okay, perfect.
Major depression, which lasted until the mid 1840s.
Okay, right. So he was having financial troubles, I guess, at this time. And then somehow, while having financial troubles, he purchased Scudder's American Museum. He actually purchased it by, I think he had like a down payment or some type of, like, he didn't buy it outright, you know, he kind of had like a deal. He made a deal with the building owner, the Scudders here, to you know, transfer ownership over like a period of time, so he could pay off. I'm not exactly sure what the the terms of the deal were, but it was something along those lines. So then that's the building you see here. He improved the attraction, upgrading the building and adding exhibits, and renamed it Barnum's American Museum. Became a popular showplace. Let's see. The roof was transformed to a strolling garden with a view of the city, where he launched hot air balloon rides daily. A changing series of live acts and curiosities were added to the exhibits of stuffed animals, including albinos, giants, little people, jugglers, magicians, exotic women, detailed models of cities and famous battles, and a menagerie of animals. So, I mean, nothing like a museum that we see today, right? I mean, I don't think anything in here, maybe detailed models of cities or famous battles, that might be what we'd see, but, so, I mean, completely different idea of the museum in this day. And if you guys want to chime in and stop me, just, or say anything, let me know.
That's interesting. Keep going.
All right. So, okay. So visiting his home state of Connecticut on a cold November night in 1842, the great showman, Phineas T. Barnum, thought to track down an amazingly small child he had heard about. Barnum, who already employed several giants at his famed American Museum in New York City, recognized the value of young Stratton. The showman made a deal with the boy's father, a local carpenter, to pay $3 a week to exhibit young Charles in New York. He then hurried back to New York City to begin promoting his new discovery. All right, so Stratton is Charles Stratton, AKA Tom Thumb, General Tom Thumb. So Charles Stratton was born in Bridgeport, son of a carpenter, who in turn was the son of, I'm not sure this is, so Sherwood married his first cousin, sorry. So actually we see some incest, in this family, and that might contribute to, the symptom of dwarfism, right? I think this is known today, right? That incest breeds kind of genetic, what's the word? Mutations, So, I mean, I thought that was interesting that we see a little bit of incest in his lineage. And his maternal and paternal grandmothers, Amy and Marianne Sharp, were stated to be small twin girls born on July 11th, 1781 in Oxford, New Haven, Connecticut, your neck of the woods there, Mark. His parents were of medium height. He was a relatively large baby, which is interesting. He said, let's see, he grew normally for the first 6 months of his life, at which point he was 25 inches tall and 15 pounds. Then he suddenly stopped growing. His parents became concerned when, after his first birthday, they noticed he had not grown at all in the previous 6 months. They showed him to their doctor, who said there was little chance Charles would ever reach normal height. By late 1842, Stratton had only grown 1 inch for when he was 6 months old and had not gained any weight. Apart from this, he was completely normal, healthy child with several siblings who were of average size. His body was proportionate and functional. So his growth seems to have been stunted. It doesn't, maybe he wasn't even, a dwarf in the modern sense, because they say that his extremities his proportions were normal. So, maybe something happened there. I don't know, in his childhood, maybe, he just, I don't know. Some people just stop growing, right? I don't know. I don't know anyone like Tom Thumb, but
I'll tell you what, if he was normal size, he'd have a huge head based on proportions. But,
right.
Yeah. Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. So when Charles Stratton and his mother moved into an apartment in the museum building, and Barnum began teaching the boy how to perform. So he's basically, just teaching this kid everything. And the weird thing about Tom Thumb is his age is often disputed. I mean, I guess because maybe they thought he might have been too young to be, performing and making money, that maybe people would dispute, saying, oh, P.T. Barnum shouldn't have done this, he's a child. I don't know. But let's see. What was it? I think I have his. No, sorry. All right. He moved into an apartment and museum building. Okay, Barnum recalled him as an apt student with a great deal of native talent and a keen sense of the ludicrous. Young Charlie Stratton seemed to love performing. The boy and Barnum forged a close friendship that lasted many years. General Tom Thumb's shows were a sensation in New York City. The boy would appear on stage in various costumes, playing the part of Napoleon, a Scottish Highlander, and other characters. Barnum himself would appear on stage as a straight man, while the general would crack jokes. Before long, Barnum was paying the Strattons $50 a week, an enormous salary for the 1840s. Right. So here we see, his kind of his charity, or his contribution to, while taking advantage of someone with, short stature, and he's making him into a star, essentially. Right. And P.T. Barnum was paying him $50 a week, but I mean, P.T. Barnum is probably making 10 times that, maybe more, because we'll see. I think I touched on it with one of his other performers, that he actually he's making, about 90% of the money oftentimes with these shows that he puts on, which makes sense. I mean, right? He's P.T. Barnum. He's the king of hoaxes. So when 6-year-old, 63-centimeter tall Charles Stratton arrived at Buckingham Palace. So they're saying he's 6 years old at this time, right? When he meets the Queen. In 1844, with his showman P.T. Barnum, it marked the beginning of Queen Victoria's obsession with the world of circus freaks. Stratton, whose stage name was General Tom Thumb, mesmerized the Queen, performing tricks and skits. He even had a ceremonial sword battle with her royal spaniel. The royal crowd, which included Prince Albert, thought it was hilarious. Apparently, the room was in hysterics. Queen Victoria was so taken with Tom, she wrote about him in her diaries and invited him, along with other circus freaks, to several more meetings that year. Right, so they've got some pretty good friends, I would say, between P.T. Barnum and Tom Thumb here. Many of the freak performers became instant celebrities. The word first entered the Oxford English Dictionary in 1849, a few years after Tom Thumb rose to prominence as one of the world's first international celebrities. He was only 4 years old when he was discovered and thrust onto the stage, but P.T. Barnum passed him off as being several years older. See, so we have that kind of dispute with his age there. And it's hard to really to knock down because, you know, he's a small person, so it's hard to get, you know, to tell, I guess, the stages of his development, I would say. So there's a dispute with that. In the early 1860s, General Tom Thumb met a small woman who was also in Barnum's employ, Lavinia Warren, and the two became engaged. Barnum, of course, promoted their wedding, which was held on February 10th, 1863 at Grace Church, an elegant Episcopal cathedral at the corner of Broadway and 10th Street in New York City. Right, so their marriage was a, you know, I mean, was a way for P.T. Barnum to, you know, I guess, help spread their fame, and doing so, you know, lining his pockets, right? And so this is just the church, Grace Church here. It's an incredible cathedral that we have here, that it's kind of overlooked in the city, I would say. I mean, it's kind of tucked away in a behind, you know, a lot of tall buildings now. I mean, this picture is, I'm not sure exactly what year it's from, but yeah. Anyways, on his 13th birthday, Stratton stood exactly 2 feet. Stratton became a Freemason on October 3rd, 1862. Stratton, by now 2 feet 11 inches tall, was initiated to be a Freemason alongside a man who was 6'3". So our buddy Tom Thumb became a Freemason, I think, 21st birthday, right? So again, we see kind of this. And I think P.T. Barnum was connected with the Oddfellows. It's kind of hard to find. But I believe that there was an article I read where P.T. Barnum is connected to the Oddfellows, or you know, likely a part of the Oddfellows. And then here, this is Tom Thumb's grave here at I forget the name of the graveyard in
Golden Hill Cemetery.
I think it's another one. It's I have it here. It's in one of the slides. It's toward the end, because P.T. Barnum actually founded the cemetery, strangely enough. But yeah, I just thought you know, this is something to include here. Maybe I see. I'm actually going like this. Okay, gotcha. All right, so yeah, Tom Thumb. You guys, what do you guys have any thoughts about Tom Thumb here?
It's fascinating. I mean, I'm kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's just nowadays, it's like we seem to have so much of this in our culture that it's not even really astounding at all. But I guess maybe back then people had only seen other average height individuals. So
Right.
you know, it just compared to the Fiji mermaid, I mean, Tom Thumb kind of an afterthought. It is interesting that he was a Freemason, but that's everybody was.
Right. I agree. Especially, you know, someone like him was probably, you know, I don't want to say manipulated, but he was for sure manipulated by P.T. Barnum. But, you know, with joining the Freemasons probably was, you know, kind of like a by association type of thing. I imagine he was, you know, they were
friends with the royalty too.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many connections that I really don't even probably touch on half of them. I mean, there's so much stuff that's even coming to my mind as I'm just now representing this. But yeah, so all right, so we'll move on to the residence of Mr. Barnum, the first house that he built, the first mansion that he built. So Iranistan was a Moorish Revival Mansion in Bridgeport, Connecticut, commissioned by P.T. Barnum in 1848. It was designed by a Bohemian-American architect, Leopold Eidlitz. At this beautiful country seat, Barnum played host to such famous contemporaries as the Hutchison family singers, Matthew Arnold, George Armstrong, Custer, Horace Greeley and Mark Twain. The grandiose structure survived only a decade before being destroyed by fire in 1857. It was one of 5 such fires in the showman's life that burned to the ground all his accomplishments. All right, so I got a few. There are no photographs of this building. There's and you'll see I actually have a picture of the only thing that survived the fire. So we'll get to that. I think it's down here. So this is just a few different depictions. I mean, if you asked me where this was, I wouldn't guess Bridgeport, Connecticut, but but
Is it
that's
there?
it burned down 9
Oh.
years. It burned down 9 years after it was completed. So it lasted from 1848 to 1857. So it didn't even make it 10 years. A building like this burned down in 9 years. Oh,
Tragedy.
so here's another. This is a good one. This was a hard to find photo. I forget exactly where I got it, but you kind of could see, because some of these aren't, the colors aren't great on some of these, but this one here, you can really see the colors on the dome. So this watercolor drawing of Barnum's first Bridgeport mansion, Iranistan's a rare view since no photographs are known to exist. Sadly, the exotic and lavishly decorated structure only lasted a decade. It burned to the ground in December of 1857. The landscape surroundings featured a greenhouse, stables, a carriage house, and a building to pump water to the house, a remarkably early example of indoor plumbing. Right, so, I mean, it seems like a building out of place in Bridgeport, Connecticut. Here I have just some clippings of different articles. So the stables, conservatories, and outbuildings were described as perfect in their kind, set off by specimen trees, fountains, urns, and statuary. The architectural masterpiece, so unique for its time, had a tragically short life, destroyed by fire in 1857. Though some pictures and furniture were salvaged, its outbuildings and grounds were still intact. Barnum decided not to rebuild on the site of his former masterpiece, turning his attentions elsewhere. So this here is the sole surviving artifact of the burning of Iranistan. But I think, oh, all right. So here, right. So here we actually have, this is in P.T. Barnum's book. He writes about the fire here. It's only 2 paragraphs. This is how much he had to write about this building here. I was staying at the Astor House in New York when on the morning of December 18th, 1857, I received a telegram from my brother Philo F. Barnum dated at Bridgeport and informing me that Iranistan was burned to the ground that morning. The alarm was given at 11 o'clock on the night of the 17th, and the fire burned till 1 o'clock on the morning of the 18th. My beautiful Iranistan was gone. This was not only a serious loss to my estate, for it had probably cost at least $150,000, but it was generally regarded as a public calamity. It was the only building in its peculiar style of architecture of any pretension in America, and many persons visited Bridgeport every year expressly to see Iranistan. The insurance on the mansion had usually been about $62,000, but I had let some of the policies expire without renewing them. So at the time of the fire, there was only 28,000. So basically he's saying, he lost a lot of money in this fire, which generally, when in history, when we see buildings burning, generally the property owners are paid out from the insurance, paid out a lot from the insurance. But I guess he's saying because he let some policies expire or something that he didn't get any money from it. But I don't know if I really believe that, because this is P.T. Barnum writing this, right? And we know not everything he says is the whole truth. But I find it interesting that he writes most of the furniture and pictures were saved generally in a damaged state. But I watched a video. There's a P.T. Barnum museum, and they do like a YouTube series. And the curator of the museum was proudly, proudly declaring this as the only surviving piece from the fire and that nothing else survived. But P.T. Barnum writes in his own book that most of the furniture and pictures were saved, generally in a damaged state. So I find that odd. Also, this artifact here was actually, apparently it was retrieved by one of the firefighters that was fighting the fire that day, and then it passed down through his family, and then someone in that family donated it back to the museum. That's the story of this piece here. And they say, now, what do you guys think that this piece is made of? And I'll show you where it was on the building here. Let's see.
Part of the building.
Yeah, it was up here on like the frame.
Portland brownstone.
Well, that's what I thought, right? That's what I would think. It kind of looks like that. But they say that this is made of wood. They say that this is made of wood, and it somehow is the only thing that survived the fire.
Okay.
But if it was wood, wouldn't it be less likely that it would survive the fire?
It looks like a depiction of the Green Man.
And not only that, right? It's just a very it's a very interesting looking face. And in New York, I mean, these are all over buildings in New York. So it's, and there's all types of like ghoul and goblin looking faces and kings and just all types of weird, just stuff that looks like it doesn't belong, That's the sense that I kind of get anyway.
The spirit of Iranistan.
Yeah, but
Yeah, it's certainly weird. If I was a firefighter, I'd try to axe something like that off to save it if I saw it wasn't burnt yet. I mean,
yeah.
not totally far-fetched to think someone might have gotten to it before it burned. I mean, it's a huge mansion, but yeah, I wonder even if maybe there was something outside of P.T. Barnum's control that affected the destruction of his mansion. Maybe there were some like people in town who had a religious objection to something called Iranistan in their town. Maybe there were people who didn't
This
like.
kind of reminds me of that. I don't know if you guys remember that movie, The Haunting, with like Owen Wilson from like 1999, where they're in this house and they're doing this sleep experiment, and the house is haunted, and there's all these like faces that are in the wall, and the children are like stuck inside the walls of it. This kind of looks like a face that would be protruding from that movie, and like I don't know, it kind of reminds me of something some P.T. Barnum house might be cursed with some of the wrongdoings of his past or something. It's
I mean,
well, and with that in mind, what were some of the highlights of P.T. Barnum's weirdness? Because we only have about 10 or 15 more minutes here.
Oh, okay.
I know you got a lot of
Let's see. I
slides.
can like skip through some things here.
Yeah, why don't you get to maybe a few of the things that you would hate to leave out? Because I know there's probably tons of.
Yeah, I mean, it's a lot. I could just kind of briefly just go through some of these things. Some slide, like I did most of these slides in the beginning have a lot of words, but as I went through, I kind of did more like just more like pictures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I mean, we could just go through some different performers, I guess you could say. So we have this guy here,
Wow.
Captain Constantinus,
Albanian.
the Greek Albanian tattooed from head to foot in Chinese Tartary as punishment for engaging in rebellion against the king. So I thought this guy he looked pretty interesting. And
Tartary. Wow.
Yeah, right.
What do you think of that? Crickets.
There we go. No, that's well, I mean, it fits into the whole World's Fair,
right.
And the specific Eastern type of architecture. I'd be really interested to see what P.T. Barnum's book collection was, what his library was.
Yeah.
But with all these fires that are associated with his lavish building, it's like probably not gonna find that list anytime soon, unfortunately.
Yeah, so we've got this guy here. We've got this guy. He was Signor Vivala, and apparently this guy, he was from Europe, or he was from Italy. I'm sorry, and I guess he changed his name. Like this is not his real name, but he would do like he would spin discs and balance things, and he was this professor of equilibrium and plate dancing. So he would do, you know, all types of, I guess, different stuff. And this is a little clipping from a newspaper or something. We could skip this because it's a little bit of reading. This is just a little. They show his I guess his show would come into town on 4 trains, like when they were doing their tour. I don't know. I guess this is like a thing, new and greatest show, on coming by 4 special trains. And so, I guess they would bring, like when they would go to a new town, they would tour across. I mean, I think they toured the entire. I mean, they toured Europe. They toured, the Americas. I mean, I don't think they got to South.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was like some crosshairs between, or runnings and friend group with the Rockefeller family, because same area, a little bit before,
a little bit before, right?
But anytime that you have the oil barons and the trains, and
right,
you're running that much cargo on the train line, I mean, you gotta be buddies with those guys.
And I mean, he was transporting, I mean, animals. I mean, obviously this is just a depiction, but he was bringing like basically a zoo, a circus act, like all these things bundled into one to these different, different cities. This is a little depiction from Barnum and Bailey Circus. Just nothing too interesting there. They got like lions, they have like exotic animals, and which kind of goes with, I mean, you see all the guys who are working with the animals, they are, they're kind of in like a specific type of garb. I don't know. That could have just been the garb of the show, I guess. But we have Jenny Lind. She was a singer. She wasn't nothing too crazy about her, but she was a European singer. He helped bring her to America, kind of do a tour of America to make some money over here. Was a giantess and a swan. I don't remember getting too much about her, but I just kind of threw her in here because there are a few giants. You have the Quaker Giant and Giantess, as exhibited at Barnum's American Museum. So he was just bringing in all types of people. There's another giant here.
Wow.
Colonel Goshen, the Palestine giant. His history is quite odd. They say he was born on Isle of Man, I believe.
Huh.
And then he faked his own death to come to America and become Colonel Goshen. And
faked his own death.
Right,
giant that faked his own death.
right. To come to America and work for P.T. Barnum.
Yeah.
Do a little tour.
P.T. Barnum had a quite the history of snatching his acts, right? Like, didn't he like he created some lavish stories in order to get some of the acts onto his show.
Yeah, there was like a petrified giant that apparently existed, but and P.T. Barnum tried to buy it off of the whoever there was the other person that owned it, and I guess they didn't want to sell it to him, so he actually went and got his own petrified giant, custom made from some sculptor or something, and was selling it off as a petrified giant.
Nice.
But I didn't include that in here, but I did read about that. We just got some clippings of Colonel Goshen. He's a native of Jerusalem and came to America in 1860. He is very intelligent and speaks 20 different languages. Let's see. I won't read this, but basically he got in a fight with one of the other showmen, I think, one of the other, giants, I think, maybe even working under P.T. Barnum, and they got in a fight and he showed his muscle. There's a little clipping of that. Yeah, we don't have to read through all that.
The giant married the spy.
Did you? Was that here?
Yeah, the giant married the Worcester spy.
Oh, I see.
Recent date. Interesting.
Yeah, and I can send you guys some of this if you want to read through some of the clippings. This is just a picture of his museum here. You can see it's kind of like the center of attraction here. Most people are outside of it there. So P.T. Barnum and London shows combined. So he did, he always was collaborating with different, I guess, showmen or probably people connected to important people. We could skip that. This is some of his other mansions that he's had. This is the Waldemir. Pretty cool building. I didn't get too much
Wow.
on this, but it's a very very interesting Victorian looking building. Just a couple more photos here. It's another good one. So this is the building that they built this building on the same ground as Waldemir, and then the Waldemir would go on to get raised, as you see in this photo here. It's just that this new building is called the Marina, I think, or Marina. Can scroll through some of that. Another one of his fires, the burning of his winter quarters in Bridgeport. So I guess this is where he would stash his stuff in the winter time, and you could see, just mayhem breaking out here. This is another building of his, Barnum Institute of Science and History, which is now today the P.T Barnum Museum in Bridgeport, which I definitely I gotta go check out for sure.
Yeah, you can see it if you're driving along I-95, which is a super well-populated highway. I don't know,
Right.
thousands of people drive by this museum every day, but I remember seeing its orange roof as you drive through Bridgeport and being like, whoa, that is not a normal building.
Yeah, look at it. It's
Yeah, that dome roof up at the top, I remember seeing that
this
and,
one here.
yeah, thinking like, what
And
could
even
this
here,
be, you know?
like the base of it is very like stone-like. I don't know. It's an interesting build.
Nowadays, the bottom half kind of looks more modern, but yeah, the top.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, here we have P.T. Barnum's Grand Roman Hippodrome. I think that this one, I don't know. I think this one is in New York, but I forget. I really forget.
Isn't that what we were
Hippodrome.
talking about? Didn't we mention that last episode, Roman? The hippodrome, or was that, am I thinking of the aerodrome that
Yeah, I didn't bring this up. I think you're
Yeah.
when Chad brought up the aeroplanes or the
yeah, he said there was like a horse racing.
Yeah. So that's right. So that probably was this.
Maybe, yeah.
I'm not sure exactly where this is. I could check, but it's cool nonetheless, and very interesting.
Yeah.
Here, this is actually interior view of the Hippo Theatron. This is like another one of these round buildings. We see a lot of these round buildings in old world architecture, right? Like these kind of these odd looking. They don't really look like, I don't know. I don't really know what they look like, but they're distinct for sure.
significant for energy.
Mhm.
Like Walt Disney made sure to have that be a theme in his Disney parks as well. You know, the circle or the different type of shapes that ebb and flow and have chi running through it, and feng shui aspects of
Right.
energy flux and things like that.
Yeah, and actually P.T. Barnum, I forget the name of it, but he actually owned or I think he owned, or I don't know if he just used the building. It's hard to know a lot of times with him, because he would own things for like a year and then sell it. But he owned the building that was there before Madison Square Garden. It was called P.T. Barnum something or other. You could look into that though. He owned the building that was there before Madison Square Garden, which was also like a circular building, which, if people don't know, the Madison Square Garden is like a circular stadium, which
Not a square.
right.
Yeah, that might even be the same hippodrome. If
Yeah, so this is it from the outside here, the Hippo Theatron. I didn't have it actually burned down as well. I don't think I even noticed that, but it opened.
How many of his buildings have burnt
Dude,
down? Like,
I
that
think
is so crazy.
in one of the articles up here that I clipped, it said 5, but I think it's more than that. I really do. It's hard to say. I think it's more than 5 though, because certain ones, like his museum, burned down twice. Like the one that was in New York, it burned down twice.
Oh, we were just talking with Dr. Bell, who was telling us that, when they're fearsome of vampires, they would burn the hearts of them, You know, maybe they thought these buildings had vampiric energies tied to it. They're like, kill the building. It's a vampire.
Yeah, I
Sorry.
mean, no, yeah, no, that's a good postulation for sure. I mean, like I said, you guys are more into a lot of this than I am. So I love hearing your guys' perspective for sure. Um, I forget oh yeah, okay. So Beardsley Zoo is a zoo in Bridgeport. That I mean, if I don't know if you've ever been there, Mark, but I know I went there as like a field trip in school. Um, but
lot. I've been
yeah,
a lot.
yeah. So yeah,
Probably an
it's a
unusual amount.
yeah. So he helped create that. Barnum would exercise his animals through the streets of Bridgeport, and people gathered in Beardsley Park to see zebras and camels walking by. Uh, Zoo. So yeah, basically, it seems like a lot of his animals kind of slowly over time, because I mean, he had so many animals. So it seems like a lot of them over time were like transitioned into the zoo. Here we have his elephant Jumbo is the mascot of Tufts University.
Dumbo.
Yeah. So is Tufts? No, Tufts isn't an Ivy League school. Is it? Is Tufts an Ivy League? I'm not sure. I don't think they are, but they are a very prominent school in New York City.
It's an ivory school.
Yeah.
Hey.
Yeah, elephants. This is interesting. There was a story I heard about an elephant that got loose, and it was at a time when some people in New England had never seen an elephant before, and these people in this town that the elephant escaped to were so freaked out they thought this was some kind of sign from the devil, and they all chased this elephant down and shot the poor thing and realized
Oh.
sometime later that, oh, this was just like a circus animal. But yeah, at first they thought it was some kind of demon, like they'd never seen any zoo. They never, there was no zoos or
Right.
animals back then. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Actually, in New York, I think I think when P.T. Barnum's museum was burning, he actually he had whales. He had live whales in the museum.
What?
In it, yeah, it's like unbelievable. It's like
How the
I can't tell if they're just making up his whole life, or if it's just really that unbelievable. But when the building burned, the whales apparently boiled alive.
That is so
Yeah.
fucked up,
Yeah,
dude.
and I think it was either tigers or lions were running the streets of New York, and I guess they had to shoot them. They had to shoot them down, or I think there was one or
New
two.
York smells so bad because they boiled these whales back then. You can't get the stink out once you do that.
Jeez,
Hey,
brah.
Not to mention, like, what do you do with the bodies? I mean, I guess
jeez, yeah. Well,
you can
they
eat
probably
them. They got nice fresh boiled whale there. I guess I don't
made
know.
a lot of candles.
Yeah, right. Yeah, so Barnum once used his circus animals to test the strength of the Brooklyn Bridge. So shortly after the Brooklyn Bridge opened in 1883, rumor that it was structurally unsound sparked a human stampede that left a dozen people dead. So the bridge's owners had previously turned down a $5,000 offer from Barnum to let him parade his circus animals across it as a publicity stunt, but they changed their minds after the incident. So on the night of May 17th, 1884, he marched 21 elephants and 17 camels over the bridge from Manhattan to Brooklyn. The famous Jumbo was part of a procession, as was Tog Tolang, a white elephant Barnum had recently acquired from Thailand. So yeah, I mean, just
And what if the bridge didn't hold and all the animals died just like the people did? Like,
And then they destroyed the new bridge too.
yeah, they probably set that ablaze and start over. I don't know.
they're like, oh, okay, just rare animals. It's nothing. We don't care.
Called Barnum and Bedlams.
Yeah, he was. So yeah, he also served as a politician. He was not a big drinker. I think that's all I got in terms. I got a few more slides here, for more photos. We just slide through and wind down here. But this is another one of his mansions. This is called Linden Croft, the country seat of P.T. Barnum, and I believe it says Esquire. So I'm guessing he was a lawyer as well. I didn't read this, but I believe that says P.T. Barnum Esquire, Bridgeport, Connecticut. So, or maybe I don't know. Maybe he was. I don't know. I didn't read about that though.
Yeah, I don't know
There's
how
n-
someone gets that title.
I think Esquire is for if you're a lawyer, but yeah, here's like another depiction. I don't know what's going on in this. I forget where exactly I found this, but I mean we have the fountain, right, which is significant. I don't know what is going on up here. I don't know if this is just an artist's depiction of like fireworks. That's kind of what it looks like to me. But it just says alarm at Lindencroft, which is odd. And there's people running kind of, I don't really know, what's going on here in this depiction. I forget, I got it from a book though, but I forget exactly which one. I could find it, but just not right now.
Yeah.
And I guess I think this is my last slide here. Oh no, this is here's the cemetery, Mountain Grove.
Okay.
Yes.
Right on.
So yes. So
Mountain
he
Grove
found it.
and Grove Street Cemetery are both I think some of the oldest cemeteries in the country. It's interesting.
Yeah,
they
yeah.
both have the word grove in them. I wonder.
Right. Seems significant for sure.
He founded the cemetery, like
right. That
he had to get credited for finding a cemetery as well. Like
everything. I mean,
the other
anything you
that was a new thing back then, Roman. I mean, like cemeteries were regarded as like something for royal people, and in America they didn't have cemeteries because people were typically buried behind a church. So when they decided to make cemeteries, it was like something that wealthy people did for their community of wealthy friends. Like, hey, don't worry, guys, we don't have to get buried next to those smelly people. I just that's all land, and we can have our nice little statues and a fancy gate to keep all the bad spirits away from us while we're
resting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Another vampiric connection, man.
Yes, and this is the last thing here, and we could wrap up, but we don't have to read through all this. I just clipped it because I didn't know what to clip out. But so he actually, after P.T. Barnum died, his second wife, Nancy Fish Barnum, which I didn't even touch on, but she kind of has a little, I think you actually touched on her history a bit, Roman, her lineage. But yeah, so she donated a coffin to his museum, or his Bridgeport Scientific Society, sorry. So he died in 1891, so 3 years after his death. It says she was given the coffin lid. I'm sorry, I'm reading this all backwards. But basically, the mummy that was inside of this coffin did not match the markings on the coffin. So because they didn't even realize this until mid 2000s here, 2006, when diagnostic imaging was done on the mummified body. We learned then that the body is female and the woman was about 30 years of age, even though the coffin indicates that the person buried in the coffin is a mummy called Paib, which I guess they got from reading the hieroglyphics on the coffin. So so there's this random body who's also quite old, I believe. The coffin turns out to be much more recent than the mummified woman who was in it. So the coffin was made about 2,500 years ago, and the woman was dated to about 4,000 years. So I didn't look any more into that, but I thought that was
took her out of another coffin, put her in the coffin,
right?
That sarcophagus, and who knows?
So,
Maybe that was some kind of grave robbery thing.
I mean, that's what I'm thinking. I'm thinking of some type of
ritual.
Right. Some type of intentional thing, and also where because the body inside is much older than 4,000 years old. I mean, where did they get this body? And where did
maybe they wanted the more valuable 4,000-year-old sarcophagus, and they're like, here, let's take that one, replace it with this one. We got the old.
Now you got two. Yeah, that's not a bad idea. I've got two artifacts. But yeah, I think that's all I got here. I think we touched on everything. I mean, like I said, there's so much more that I didn't even whisper. So there's a lot.
That's awesome, man. I'm really grateful that you put that together, and we appreciate you sharing it with us. What do you think, Roman, Tara? Any final questions about P.T. Barnum or just for Jason in general?
So many, but I mean, like we said, it's like we could do this a whole show on him for every day for a week.
Yeah, seriously.
But no, man, you did a great job, dude.
Cool, thank you.
You held it down on the mic, brother, and much appreciato.
Yeah, I was hoping you guys would hop in more, but I think I held my own there.
No,
Yeah, you did really
Cool,
well.
thank you.
Yeah, it was awesome. Well, awesome, Jason. Thank you so much for being here and sharing your little piece of the Esoteric America that we're all a part of. And that's what this show's all about, is inviting folks like yourself who clearly enjoy the same things that we do to come in and join in the conversation. So please do some research on New York City, brother, since you're
Yeah, I'm actually looking into some things now. So
Yeah.
actually today I was just at me and my girlfriend Savannah, we just went to, there is an Egyptian obelisk in Central Park. So we just
Oh, yeah.
visited that today and
It's
got some
called
cool photos.
Cleopatra's Needle.
Right.
Was actually in Egypt, and they've
Yep.
shipped it over here.
Yep, they put
Well,
it on a boat.
let's have you on the show when we get into New York City.
Cool, yeah, I'd love to. And I'm here, so I can be around. Like actually, it's funny that you mentioned that because like I was saying, my girlfriend's a photographer, and we kind of want to start creating like a little side projects of our own
Yeah.
about things that are around us. So
Yeah, start documenting all those weird things you see walking around New York. I can say for sure,
oh
every
yeah,
time I go to New York, I see something
oh
new.
my god,
My favorite is the Hermes on top of Grand Central.
oh yeah,
Grand Central, you have this like huge statue of Hermes, and there's all these things.
yeah. Grand Central is a deeply occulted building, I would say, for
I
sure.
think we could do. Roman, have you ever been to New York City?
I have, yeah, I've been
So
to
you-
Manhattan and Brooklyn, and
Have you seen Grand Central?
no, we were on tour with some music stuff, and so
Oh,
we were in and out, unfortunately. But I did go to some bodegas, and I got this thing that was called the weed wrap, and it was tabbouleh salad, bacon, chicken, pesto chicken, lettuce, tomato, avocado, and a spinach wrap. And I was like, yeah, I'll take that. And it was actually really good. So I've always
Yeah,
remembered
bodega food.
New York for the
bodega food
bodegas.
is definitely a good option out here. They'll take care of you at the bodegas.
Well, every
Nice.
esoteric, the Esoteric America travel guide needs to have, the lowdown on where to eat, because when
Yeah,
you're
yeah.
traveling, you got to know where to eat. So, Roman, I'm so grateful to have you here to
Me
Oh,
too,
yeah.
guys.
Trust me.
hungry over here.
We be out here doing it for you, man. No, I get all that field research for you, baby.
Well, anyways, Jason, thanks, brother. We're gonna let you go as we
Cool,
wrap
man.
up this episode. And like I said, stay in touch. You have
Yeah, for sure.
my contacts, so we'll get in touch and maybe we'll come down and visit you in New York sometime.
Yeah, man. And I'm in Connecticut from time to time too, so I'd love to come out there. There's a lot more woods and
if you ever-
hiking and stuff like that. I know you guys are into that, so
Yeah,
that's
if you're
something I'm
ever
super
near
about.
New Haven, and anybody listening near New Haven, get in touch. We're going to be doing another tour of New Haven this March on the 22nd. So
Okay, I'll have to look. I'll have to tap into that. So, because I can always take a train over there too, for the day. It's super
yeah,
convenient.
for sure. Well, then, thanks, man. We'll talk to
Cool,
you.
man. Thank you, guys.
Cheers.
All right. So that was P.T. Barnum. Thank you, Jason, for being here. And if you're listening and you want to be on the show, put together a presentation, not so many slides, but, between 10 and 20, I think is good, because, you can only get into so much in an hour. And Jason was so kind to put together so many slides that we had to ask him to brush through those pretty quickly. But yeah, what do you guys think? Maybe we ought to do just do a little wrap up here, because I really don't have the energy to get into the whole New Haven presentation that I have. I feel like it really deserves its own episode. We've already been going for an hour 20 here. It's getting kind of late over here.
Yeah, no, I feel it.
you're over there in Hawaii. It's probably time for dinner right now. What do you say?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I'm down to keep it rolling for another episode. And I'll bring some more juice on, and we can wrap up the New Haven
Don't bring too
next
much
time around.
juice, because then I'm just gonna keep getting delayed every. I got the juice. Let me chop the final.
All right,
Add to-
perfect.
yeah, if you have more, sure, but no, we're gonna do one more. Hopefully Chad will be able to join us. We'll do one more on Connecticut, and then it'll be up to the listeners. I think we have enough of an audience now to where we can ask them, put your vote in the comments. If you want us to talk about a place in Washington, if you want us to talk about a place in California, if you want to talk about a place in Hawaii, Roman will decide exactly which part, because it's based on, it's his choice essentially. But let's leave it to the audience to choose.
Yeah.
Is that what you're down with that?
I love that. I love.
Leave a comment in the YouTube video. Rockfin, if you're listening on a podcast app, just send us an Instagram message at Esoteric America. I know I haven't been posting much on the Esoteric America thing. Maybe I should give like Tara or you, Roman, a login so we can all be. Actually, you don't do Instagram, so I'll give. Tara hates it. No, maybe whatever. This is all. Comment, send us a message, give us your vote. California, Washington, or Hawaii? Where are we going to do next? I think that's a fun way to keep the show going, and maybe we'll keep doing it that way. We'll pick a few options and let the audience vote where we research into next, because we're always getting messages from people who say, hey, I'm here, this is what's going on, and we want to have as many of you on the show as possible. So yeah, keep sending us messages. Esoteric America Podcast at gmail.com. If you have some research, you want to send us an email. You could also get in touch with us via Instagram. And if you just have a few things to say, leave us a comment on YouTube. That's always helpful. Roman, of course, is the co-host, the one of two halves of Rising from the Ashes.
Mm-hmm.
Got a Patreon where he puts all sorts of cool content out, and not just bonus Rising from the Ashes stuff. He's got his own episodes, and him and I just recorded a swap cast together. So take a look at the Rising from the Ashes podcast, wherever you listen to podcasts, and check out our interview with Michael Bell.
And Moon Mysteries with Kaylee Burkana. It's a show dedicated strictly to the moon. We only have a few episodes up because we only do 2 a month, but yeah, just had a great chat with Maria Wheatley this morning, she's been on Megalithomania, written many books about Stonehenge and all the stuff, but she talks about the Celtic triple goddess and the moon veneration cults and stuff. So yeah, definitely check out the third and final podcast. Is called Moon Mysteries, and definitely give that some love because it's a new baby that is just learning how to walk.
Yeah.
All right, right on.
Awesome.
Tara, you got anything you want to promote? We got our scene for all the Patreon listeners. Sign up for the My Family Thinks I'm Crazy Patreon. Tara had a great idea for all the Patreon folks, and Roman, you're welcome to participate. We'll send you the info. But we have a scene challenge for people, and if you partake in the challenge, if you explore, join us on the 22nd of this month, February, because we're going to be doing a Zoom party. We'll all get together and share the results of our explorations. So I think that's a really fun way for us to all get together, and credit goes to Tara for that really awesome idea. So although she doesn't say it herself, she has a bunch of really.
I look forward to doing it. You actually got to get out of the house once in a while and pull you away from the computer so we can.
Yeah, that's for sure. Look at Roman. He's ready to be pulled away from the waking world. Go to sleep. Are you podcasting from a bed or a couch? I've been struggling to figure that out.
Both, man. I've been going since like 9 a.m.
You're
this
just
morning.
on a pile of your stuff that you moved into this new place.
Don't question. Don't listen. Don't dig too deep into it. All right.
I don't want to dig deeper than I'm already seeing. What I'm seeing
Exactly.
deep enough. What is this painting behind you? Is that just like a circle or?
It's a beautiful blue swath of endless vast, a void of the tears from a specific deity that it lives within the Akashic.
Wow. Because it's been changing shapes all night. I don't know if it's your camera, but at one point it looked like an astronaut helmet, and then another point it looked like a dirt bike helmet, and then at one point I thought it was a skull, and then I'm like, no, it's an alien head, and now you
Yep.
got it back, I can see the whole thing. I'm like, no, it's just a stroke of blue paint with water mixed into it.
That's real art, man. That is real art, man.
Well, with that, folks, chase that real art in our Esoteric America. Big shout out to Jason. Thank you for joining us, brother. And shout out to you, Roman. Shout out to you, Tara.
Shout out to you, Mark.
Big warm shout out to our friend Chad who couldn't make it tonight. And with that, explore your Esoteric America onward and upward.
Thank you, Jesus.